Well, folks, yesterday we heard from Adam Aron, all right? This is his own quote. Retail investors owned 90% of the float outside of ETFs. Outside of ETFs, 90% of the float on AMC stock, it's owned by people like you and I who are buying AMC and who have been buying so far and have been holding, not selling a single share. Maybe if you're day trading or swing trading. But the bottom line is when you are doing the math, when you do the math and you try to figure out, well, if we actually own 90% of the float, how come we have people like BlackRock and Vanguard and, mutual funds and institutionals plus the insiders, people like, the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CMO, the CTO, etc., etc. Where are these shares coming from if we own 90%, all right? So let's do the math, for example, based on, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about here. Well, first off, we know that the outstanding total shares out there for AMC in the current market, it's about 513,220,000 shares. If we multiply that by 90%, it leaves us with 461,898,000 shares. Now, if you take out what retail owns, it leaves you with 51,222,000 shares. Now, top 10 institutional totals up to 135.5 million shares. That's 26%. Top 10 institutional mutual funds in total is up to 67.1 million shares. That's up to 13%. Mutual funds plus insider ownership, it's about 11%. These are data that we're getting from the NASDAQ or MarketBeat, all right? So this is public information, 11%. So it leaves us with 56.5 million shares. Now, let's do the sum. Let's sum up everything. Retail, 461.9 million shares, all right? Institutional, 135.5 million shares. Mutual funds, 67.1 million shares. Mutual funds plus the insiders, 56.5 million shares. Now, if we take everything, it adds up to 721 million shares. Well, I may be wrong or missing something, but the outstanding total shares out there issued by the company, it's actually less than that, 513,220,000 shares. So if we remove the float, that we know it's the total outstanding share that the company issued, all right, it leaves us with 207, almost 208 million shares. This is this number here, almost 208 million shares that are supposed to be fake shares, synthetics, shares that were created in order to actually make sure the short sellers were doing what they've been doing so far. So the big question now that this raises, it's okay, first off, if we own this 90%, it means if you divide all of these shares, all right, by the 4 million people that are retail investors in AMC stock, it leaves you with what? Maybe, I don't know, 200 or between 180 or 200 shares. Let's just use 200 shares as an average, all right? I definitely know lots of people who used to own 50 shares and are now at 500. And I think the average or the median will be somewhere between maybe 1,000 shares to maybe 1,500 shares. I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers there to come to the bottom line that this is all BS. This is all BS. Either retail investors own definitely more than that, which I believe the reality might not be far from that truth, or synthetic shares are way bigger than the 207 million shares. I don't know, because in this number, I didn't take into consideration what? The dollar pools. So the reality is, if this is the public numbers, well, where are the big guys are getting the shares from? If this is true and public information, well, where is and why is only, 10% of people owning the stock are able to actually push the share price down from $60 or $70 to $40 to $30 to $35 to $25, all the way down to $14, $16, and $18 a share. How come? If no one from the 90% of you and I, the 90% allegedly, are not selling and are still buying? All questions that we already have answers from, but are only pointing to the fact that, well, this is just a matter of time, because all of these synthetics, whether they are counted in hundreds of millions or in billions of shares, it doesn't matter, because at some point they will have to cover those. And when they do, well, it's going to create such a big wave that, I mean, maybe it's on, I mean, I don't want to use the term unimaginable, but it's kind of an unimaginable number we're looking at here when it comes to the amount of money you can make here on AMC stock if you wait until the end, because the end is not that far, people. The end is not that far, folks. That's what I believe anyway.